Most royal controversies explode in public. They dominate headlines, fill television broadcasts, and spark endless debate across social media. But every now and then, something far more significant happens behind closed palace doors, without cameras, without speeches, and without the public realizing just how much is at stake. According to reports, that's exactly what happened when Prince Edward found himself at the center of a dispute that could have quietly changed the future of one of the royal family's most historic inheritances. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary question about royal property. It wasn't. Because this wasn't simply about a house. It wasn't even just about a title. It was about a promise reportedly made by Queen Elizabeth II before her death, a promise that some believe was never meant to be questioned. And when that promise appeared to come under pressure, Prince Edward didn't respond with public interviews or emotional statements. He reportedly responded with something far more powerful. Documents. Legal agreements. Years of preparation. If the reports are accurate, what followed became one of the most remarkable examples of quiet determination the modern monarchy has seen. To understand why this matters, we have to go back several years. When Queen Elizabeth II passed away in September 2022, the monarchy entered a completely new era. King Charles III inherited the throne. A new generation of royals stepped into larger roles. The institution itself faced growing pressure to modernize, reduce costs, and redefine its future. Charles had spoken for years about creating a smaller, more streamlined monarchy. Many expected significant changes. Some believed royal properties, titles, and financial arrangements would all be reviewed as part of that vision. On paper, it seemed logical. After all, a new monarch often brings a new approach. But according to reports, one particular royal inheritance proved far more complicated than anyone expected. That inheritance was the Dukedom of Edinburgh. For more than 70 years, the title had belonged to Prince Philip. It became one of the most respected positions within the royal family, symbolizing decades of service, loyalty, and unwavering commitment to the crown. Long before Philip passed away, Queen Elizabeth II had reportedly made her wishes clear. She wanted the title to pass to Prince Edward. Not because he was the eldest. Not because he was the most famous. But because, over decades of royal service, Edward had built a reputation unlike almost anyone else in the family. He stayed away from scandals. He rarely sought attention. He simply continued doing the work. When King Charles officially granted Edward the title of Duke of Edinburgh in 2023, many believed the story had reached its natural conclusion. Everything appeared settled. But according to reports, that was only the beginning. Because attached to the title was something just as important. Bagshot Park. To many people, it's simply another royal residence. In reality, it represents far more than that. Set within Windsor Great Park, Bagshot Park has served as Prince Edward and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh's home for decades. It's where they raised their children. It's where countless charitable meetings have taken place. And for Edward, it represents years of personal commitment. What many people don't realize is that Bagshot Park wasn't handed over in perfect condition. Far from it. When Edward accepted responsibility for the property, it reportedly required extensive restoration after years of neglect. The scale of the work surprised many observers. Instead of walking away from the challenge, Edward invested significant time, effort, and reportedly substantial private funds into restoring the estate. Room by room. Project by project. Year after year. The transformation didn't happen overnight. It required patience, planning, and considerable financial commitment. According to reports, Edward entered into formal lease arrangements connected to the property and continued investing in its future over many years. Those agreements would later become incredibly important. Because as discussions about modernization reportedly gathered momentum, questions began emerging about the long-term future of several royal residences. Among them was Bagshot Park. Suddenly, what had once appeared to be settled no longer seemed quite so simple. According to multiple reports, advisors began reviewing various royal assets as part of broader conversations about efficiency and long-term planning. Whether Bagshot Park would ultimately be affected became a subject of growing speculation. For Edward, however, this wasn't simply an administrative issue. It was personal. This wasn't just a residence provided by the institution. It was a home he had spent decades maintaining. A property he had reportedly invested millions into restoring. And perhaps most importantly, it was deeply connected to the legacy left by both Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. Rather than reacting publicly, Edward reportedly chose a very different strategy. He let the paperwork speak. Legal agreements. Historical records. Lease documents. Years of carefully preserved evidence. According to reports, every significant decision connected to Bagshot Park had been documented long before any disagreement emerged. If true, that preparation would prove invaluable. Because in today's constitutional monarchy, tradition certainly matters. But signed agreements matter too. And sometimes, they matter even more. As palace insiders reportedly reviewed the situation, one reality gradually became impossible to ignore. This wasn't simply a disagreement between members of the royal family. It had become a question about where royal authority ends, and where legally binding commitments begin. And according to reports, that distinction would change everything.